Virgo, just sit. I've done a lot of these. This one is different. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Subscribe. I mean it when I say this one, okay, let's go. There are messages and there are messages. Most of what moves through a reading is familiar territory. Not in the sense of being repeated, each reading has its own texture, its own specific configuration of what is present and what is forming and what deserves attention. But familiar in the sense of belonging to known categories, the coming change, the person who is thinking of you, the financial shift, the emotional reckoning. These are real and they matter, and the work of naming them clearly is real work. But they are navigable. They have been navigated before. They exist within the range of what this kind of attention regularly encounters. And then occasionally, not often, not regularly, not in the way of something that can be scheduled or expected, something arrives that does not belong to the navigable categories. That has no prior form to compare itself to. That stands in the territory of this reading the way an unmapped land mass stands in the territory of a familiar sea, undeniable in its presence, impossible to locate on any existing chart, requiring the reader to set down the charts and simply look at what is actually there rather than what the charts predicted would be there. This is that. Not the largest reading ever offered to anyone, not a claim about exceptional fortune or singular destiny. Something more specific and in some ways more significant than either of those things. The arrival of something in this particular reading for this particular person at this particular moment that has no prior version in the archive of what has moved through here before. Something arrived that has never arrived before. Till now, two words that carry the entire weight of what they follow. The never, the complete, no exceptions, across all previous readings, never, and then the now. The specific, datable, this is the moment, the never ends now, the hinge point between before and after, between the period during which this thing did not exist in the shared space of this reading and the period beginning here, beginning at this exact moment of contact between this message and the person it was made for, during which it does. The never ended, which means something unprecedented is present. Not unprecedented in the abstract, not unprecedented in the history of the world or in the range of human experience, but unprecedented in this specific conversation, in this specific attunement to your specific life, in the specific field of attention that has been held in your direction across however many previous readings were held in your direction and produced their familiar categories and navigable territories. None of those previous readings produced this. This one did, which means something in you, in your situation, in the specific configuration of your life at this precise moment in its development, has reached a point that no previous configuration reached, has arrived at something, has become something, has crossed into territory that the previous versions of this reading could not access because the previous versions of you had not yet arrived at the threshold that makes the territory accessible. You crossed a threshold without knowing you crossed it, which is how thresholds tend to work. What the message is, not a prediction, not a promise, not the announcement of a specific event that will occur on a specific date and produce a specific outcome. What the message is a recognition of a quality that has emerged in you, through you, as the result of everything you have been through and everything you have refused to stop building toward, despite everything you have been through. A quality that was not fully present before, that was present in embryonic form, in potential form, in the barely detectable early stages of what it was becoming, but that is now, in this reading, in this moment, fully present in a way it was not before, fully itself, fully formed, fully legible to whatever it is that attunes to these things. The quality is readiness. Not readiness in the ordinary sense of having prepared for something specific, not the readiness of someone who has studied for an exam or trained for a race or rehearsed for a performance, the other kind, the deeper kind, the readiness of someone who has been shaped by everything, by the difficulty and the loss and the rebuilding and the periods of waiting that produced nothing visible and the periods of movement that produced nothing the eye could follow, and the accumulation of all of it into the specific, unrepeatable, completely yours person standing on this particular ground at this particular moment. That readiness is the unprecedented thing. That is what arrived in this reading that has not arrived before. Why it matters that you have never heard this before. Because the never is a measurement. Measurements that have never reached a certain value and then reach it are telling you something about the thing being measured, that it has changed. That something in its nature or its quantity or its quality has shifted past whatever threshold separates the previous readings from this one. The thermometer that has never read above a certain temperature and then reads above it is telling you the temperature has changed. The instrument that has never registered a certain signal and then registers it is telling you the signal is present. The reader who has never encountered this particular quality in your field and then encounters it is telling you the quality is present. Newly present, freshly arrived at its full form, occupying your energy, your situation, your specific configuration of who you are and what you are building in a way that is measurably different from how it occupied previous versions of this reading. The instrument is registering something it has never registered before. The reading is producing something it has never produced before. Not because the instrument changed, because what the instrument is measuring changed. You changed in the specific direction of becoming someone for whom this message is now possible. What this means for what is coming. Readiness, when it reaches its full form, changes what arrives. Not because readiness creates the things that are approaching your life have their own causes, their own trajectories, their own reasons for moving in your direction that have nothing to do with whether you were ready to receive them. But because readiness changes the quality of the reception, because the same thing landing in prepared ground and unprepared ground produces completely different results, because the seed and the soil are both necessary, and the one without the other cannot produce what both together produce. The soil is ready. Whatever the specific form of what is approaching in love, in the material reality of your life, in the particular development of the situation that has been developing. Whatever it is arriving into ground that can receive it fully, not partially. Not with the inevitable losses that occur when something significant lands in soil that is not yet prepared to hold it, the specific expensive losses of things that arrive before their time, before the person has developed the capacity to sustain them, before the ground has been prepared to support the weight. Those losses happen. They have happened. They are not happening now. Now the ground is ready, which means what arrives can arrive into its full expression, can become what it is actually capable of becoming rather than what the limitations of an unprepared reception would have allowed it to become, can take root, can grow in the direction it was always meant to grow, rather than being stunted by the conditions it encountered on arrival. This is the message. This is what has never been present before. Not the thing approaching the readiness of the ground, the preparedness of the person who receives it. The arrival of you at exactly this configuration, whole, shaped, tested, carrying everything you have learned at exactly the moment when what is moving toward you needs this precise version of you rather than any of the previous versions. The specifics of what is forming. 3 dimensions, each real, each unprecedented in its own way, each connected to the others at a depth that may not be immediately visible, but that becomes more visible the more directly any one of them is examined. The first, a love that has the quality of finally. Not first love, though. First love has its own extraordinary quality that belongs to its season. Finally, love. The love that arrives after the person has been through enough to know what they are receiving when it arrives. After they have had the experiences that calibrate the instrument, that teach the difference between what feels like love in its early stages and what actually is love in its enduring form. After they have survived the loss of things they thought would last and learned, from the surviving, exactly what is essential and what is not. Finally, love arrives with that calibration already done. Arrives to someone who can receive it fully because they understand from the inside what they are receiving, who does not mistake it for something smaller or larger than it is, who meets it as what it actually is. That is the love that is forming. Whew. The second, a material stability that has the quality of deserved. Not in the moralistic sense, not deserved because you were good enough or patient enough or suffered enough to have earned it. Deserved in the structural sense, built from what you built, corresponding to what you put in, not proportionally, not in the neat one-to-one of effort and return that material reality rarely actually delivers, but cumulatively over the distance in the way that things built slowly and carefully and from real materials eventually produce something that holds because it was built to hold rather than built to appear to hold. That stability is approaching. From the direction of what you have been constructing in the period that preceded this reading. The third, a clarity about your own direction that has the quality of settled. Not final, not the closure of someone who has finished becoming, but settled in the sense of a ship that has found its heading, that is no longer turning in response to every current that moves through the water around it. That has identified the direction the voyage requires and has set its course with enough conviction to maintain the heading through whatever weather the remaining distance contains. That settled direction changes everything about how you move, how you make decisions, how you understand what is and is not relevant to where you are going, how you spend the limited resource of your attention and your energy. The settling is happening, has been happening, and is in this reading for the first time fully arrived. Never before. The three words from the title that contain the whole history of every reading that preceded this one and everything they did not produce. The accumulated archive of what has been present in your field, what was visible, what was forming, what was approaching across however many readings, however many moments of attention directed toward your specific life and its specific configuration, all of that accumulation, all of that previous, and none of it contained the specific simultaneous presence of all three of these things in their fully formed versions. The love, the stability, the settled direction. Each has appeared in previous versions of your reading in its earlier forms, in its potential, in its partial development, in the stages of becoming that preceded the fully formed arrival. But the fully formed versions, all three together, in the specific mutually reinforcing configuration that makes each of them more possible because the others are present, that makes the love more sustainable because the stability is present, that makes the stability more accessible because the direction is settled, that makes the direction clearer because the love is real. That specific configuration, never before today. And now, the now that ends the never, the specific, irreversible, already happened now of this reading, this message, this moment of contact between what is present in your field and the attention that is capable of perceiving it and naming it for what it actually is. Something unprecedented has arrived. Not from outside you, not delivered by fortune or chance or the random distribution of cosmic benevolence. From inside you, from the accumulated, shaped, tested, refined version of you that this period of your life has been producing. The unprecedented thing is you at this precise configuration. The unprecedented thing is what you have become. The unprecedented message is about what that becoming makes possible, what it calls toward it, what it draws in, what it creates the conditions for, simply by existing at this level of fullness and readiness and settled direction. The message is, you are ready. Not for something specific that will arrive on a specific day and look a specific way, for the whole of it, for the full, complicated, beautiful, demanding, finally corresponding to what you actually are version of your life that the previous versions of you were building toward without always knowing what they were building toward. The building reached something. This reading is the first one that could see it, not because the reading changed, because what it is looking at changed, because you changed in the specific direction of becoming someone whose field contains this for the first time. This is the message that has never been here before. and it is here now. For you, only ever for you, till now